Um, uh, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day. And really, as we think about beginning the new year, I don't know about you, I think about what goals. I wouldn't call them necessarily my New Year's resolutions, because those go out the window pretty quick for me. But when I think about what is it I want to accomplish, or what might I want to do differently, I often think about how can I take better care of myself, um, in whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that might be. What kinds of things, intentions can I set for myself? Because we have stress every day, and it varies what stresses us out and the level of that. So that it's January, we can begin thinking about, I know I've got all kinds of things coming up. How can I take better care of myself and prepare for the stress that sometimes is just inevitable? So I thought today one way to start is setting an intention just for this hour. Why did you come today? Why did you show up? What is your intention for this hour? Maybe it's just to take a break from your normal day. Maybe it's connection. Maybe it's I want to learn something. So let's just take a moment. I'm going to ask you to take a really deep belly breath. Okay. So if you place your hand on your belly and take a deep breath so you can feel it filling up and out. I don't know if it's you. Did you feel your shoulders kind of let down a little bit? Let's do that one more time. Okay. So just to help us be present, you might be running from many different things. I heard, whether it's taking care of your horses, running from your work. Let's just be present. And today I want to talk about, and I'm guessing what we're going to talk about today, I'm guessing you've heard some of this before. I'm guessing it's not unique. So I hope that as we go through today, that there might be something that just strikes you a little differently, or maybe just reminds you, oh yeah, I need to start doing more of that. So we're going to talk about what leads to stress a little bit. Why is it that I get stressed about something, but my spouse doesn't, or my coworker gets stressed about different things? And we'll talk about what could cause some of that. And then maybe these 4 different techniques that we might try to use. And, the best technique for you is the one that works for you, right? So we read, we see articles about all different things. And I know I try different things and I go, well, I'm not getting anything out of that. So I encourage you, take what works for you and just keep working with it and finding things that do that for you.
You can turn off the
So I am going to go right now and share my screen with you. And again, to talk about just kind of 4 techniques that we use that research says are proven that works. But again, it's got to work for you. The first thing I want to do is Claudia is going to drop a link into chat to take us to a Jamboard. And I want to know, what's causing you stress today? What's kind of stressing you out? Or maybe putting you in some angst. And so when you get to the Jamboard on the left-hand side, about 4 characters down is a sticky note. So just place what is causing you stress, write that on the sticky note, and just click away and it will show up. So using the sticky note on the left. Okay. So Maureen puts managing family issues while trying to manage work. What's too much to do at work? I'm tired. Yeah. Not enough hours in the day. Yep. Balancing all of that. What else?
I can't find the sticky note, but
Okay. Okay.
for me, actually today, I am taking a sigh of relief being home and not having to worry about the stresses of work.
Yeah. It's like having a little respite, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So being pulled in different directions, family and housework and household. Yeah. Trying to keep all those balls in the air. Feeling I'm not taking care of myself, not moving enough, not eating or drinking enough. Boy, that's a constant for me too, you know. And as leaders, whether it's in our job, whether it's in our families, we know we can only give when our bucket gets replenished. And so when we are running on empty, it's not helpful to anyone around us, but especially ourselves. So taking care of employees, feeling responsible for the outcome of others' lives. Yeah, heavy. That's a lot to live with. And I wish I could sleep just 3 hours per night to have more. Oh yeah, and still feel good. Because I've been going through this thing of not being able to sleep really well. And I'm not a pleasant person then the next day. And I don't think very clearly. I'm not operating from my best self, right? Okay. Thank you for doing that. So as we go through, think about this. I kind of think about things. Sometimes stresses are inevitable. So when you look at even the idea of work deadlines, how much does that stress you out on a scale from 0 to 90%? And Maureen, can you walk folks through how to annotate on the screen? Do you remember how to do that?
Yes, I'm trying to I'm trying to remember, Liz. It's been a
Okay.
while. It's up on the right. So it should say on the top of your screen, you're viewing Liz Bullard's screen. And then to the right of that, it should say view options. And if you scroll down, there's a button that says annotate, and then you can use the text button.
I'd use like the stamp.
Okay, so
Use the stamp.
3 spots over, there's a stamp, and then you can click which one you want.
So yeah. So like, how much do work deadlines stress you out?
Well, and I accidentally put that heart at 25. It's way higher than that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm at 47. I'll just say it out loud.
Okay. Okay, so about 50, depending, probably 50-50 right in there. But there's, as you can see, there's kind of a range here, right? Maybe around 40, 35, 40 up to 80 when you talk about stress levels. Okay. So that's work deadlines. What about, let me clear this out. What about, oh, I didn't stop the annotation. Let me stop that. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Sorry. It's one of those days. Let's
Don't
go
stress
back.
out. Don't stress out
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What about vacations, planning for a vacation. What stress does that bring up for you?
I
Well,
love planning vacations.
I know you do.
I just kind of came back from a miniature vacation, and having not been on vacation or traveled or more so flying was probably in between the 50 and 75 mark there and stuff.
Yeah. Well, especially if you saw what happened with Southwest over Christmas. Oh my goodness.
Well, I flew Southwest the day before. If I would have waited one more day, I would have been caught up in their mess
Yeah.
out of Los Angeles.
Wow. So again, we see people react to different things differently. There's different stress levels. Okay. All right. So why do some people get stressed and others? Well, typically, this is what research says that they have discovered that causes stress in folks. And there's some consistency. There's usually a high sense of uncertainty in some area, a low sense of control. Think about all those people stuck in lines at the airport. And the stakes seem high. Well, I gotta get home for Christmas, right? Family's waiting on me. That usually are conditions under which people are most likely to feel stress. And, you know, I think we all can relate to that. So what is the difference then? Some people feel like, even when we looking at the vacations, it might feel a little pressure to get the reservations and stuff in and organized and find the VRBO or whatever it is. But some people really get stressed about that. What's the difference? Well, the research says to convert pressure into stress, people typically have to do something very specific than the people who don't get stressed. And that specific thing is ruminate. Think about it over before. Think about what could happen. How do I get this done? What do we need to do? And it's a constant rumination, right? Thinking about events over and over again. And when we do that, it has an impact, right? It impacts us in a number of different ways, and primarily our health. When we anxiously ruminate about events, it puts our body into the fight or flight mode. And you might experience it like as you begin to think about all the stuff you got to do, especially chronically ruminating, you might feel your heart start racing. And it's like a constant engine going. It also affects the release of cortisol, this hormone. And in small doses, it's good. But in high doses, under high stress, it can produce more white blood cells, right? And this then begins to affect our immune system. It suppresses our immune system. So have you noticed whether it's you under stress or others under stress who then typically get sick, like catch a cold, catch the flu more easily because our immune system has been suppressed? And then finally, we know that this has been an issue for us when we are just exhausted. Sometimes we don't even realize it until that stress goes away, how much it was impacting us. But oftentimes, ultimately, we just feel tired, right? So I'm curious for you, if you'd put this in chat, what are some areas that are you most likely to ruminate about? Okay. I know for me, it's like upcoming events or presentations, especially with a group I don't know real well. What do you tend to ruminate about? Okay. Got in reports, conflicts, personal issues, paperwork. Okay. Anything else that you kind of just ruminate over? Okay. Okay. And overall, when we are in this state of rumination, we're just less productive. And sometimes we get down on ourselves. Why can't I get more done? Other people can do it. Why can't I? Well, it's because we're not moving past this rumination. So let's look at 4 different things we could try to help us get past this and reduce our stress level. Okay. And this is based on a gentleman by the name of Nicholas Petrie. And I got to know him when I was working at the Center for Creative Leadership. And when he was younger, he was diagnosed with cancer. And this came out right after he was like a semi-professional soccer player, very active, very athletic. And then he got diagnosed with cancer and went through a couple of years of recovery, of chemotherapy and recovery. But what he found, he says, is I kept thinking about the next doctor appointment. Are they going to find it again? Is it going to come up? What am I going to do? And he thought there's got to be a better way to deal with this stress. And through his work at the Center for Creative Leadership, he started working with medical doctors and talking about this idea of rumination, where they started looking at different techniques. And it started particularly with people who had been diagnosed with cancer, but then moved on to his work with leaders and organizations. What is it that can help reduce this rumination? And so one of the things that he said is, instead of ruminate, how can I use reflection? Instead of ruminating about what could happen or what has happened, how can I use reflection to better look at this? Because when we are in rumination, we're in a negative mindset typically, whether it's thinking about the past and ruminating about that. What could I have done differently? What do they think of me in that meeting? I made that mistake. Or thinking about the future. And this is an area that I struggle with in the future. What am I going to do? How am I going to come up with this presentation? I don't know these people. Will it make a difference? Will it help? You know, and that's more negative. Instead, and this is what they call above the line thinking, and that's reflecting. And we think about this often when we do projects with teams. We often think about this. What have we learned when we just went through something difficult and came to an end of a project? What have we learned? What can we do differently in the future? That's reflection. So as I think about this, one of the questions I've gotten from people like coaches, well, should I not think about what could go wrong, you know, for my team? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not telling you not to do that. That's planning. That's thinking about how can we do things differently in the future so we don't have this issue. It's when we get stuck and we are in this negative mindset that we get into rumination. And so if we can get ourselves above what they call above the line and think in a positive mindset, what have we learned? How can we move forward? And what do we want to change for the future or keep? Okay. More reflection. Okay. So another thing to ask ourselves is, when we're in this mode, is, am I reflecting in order to make a plan, right? Future forward type thinking? Or am I ruminating and making myself stressed out, that negative loop thinking? That simple question, maybe it's a sticky on your computer. That simple question can help bring us into the present and let us make a decision on where we want to go. Okay. The next thing technique they talk about is wake up stay awake as long as you can. Well, okay. What's that mean? Well, here's this continuum of sleep idea. And that's deep sleep is our deepest place that we're at. Dreaming sleep, okay, not quite so deep, but we dream. Sleepwalking, we're still asleep, but we're actually moving, right? All the way to wide awake. But what the research says is there's something in between that sleepwalking and wide awake, right? And it's called waking sleep. And researchers said that we spend 70% of our time during the day in waking sleep. What's waking sleep? Well, have you ever been maybe driving to work and you've been in your head and next thing you know, you're there. You don't even remember your trip. Or you're in a meeting and someone calls your name. Liz, what do you think about that? I don't even remember what we were just talking about because I was somewhere else, right? That waking sleep. It's about how do we bring ourselves back to present? So what do we do? How do we bring ourselves back when we're in that waking sleep? And maybe someone else doesn't have to do it for us. Somebody might by calling out our name, but how can we do that for ourselves? Oops. Well, I'm going to ask you right now. I'm guessing you have a pen or some sort of writing instrument near you. Pick that writing instrument up. Now I want you to put that writing instrument in the other hand, your non-dominant hand. How does that feel? Give me a couple of comments, whether in chat or open up your mic.
Weird.
It's weird. You notice it, right? Weird but interesting. Awkward. Well, here's the thing. You're right here and now. It just brought you back to present. So something you could use when you're in a meeting or trying to stay present, and you have your pen out to take notes to help you stay present, put it in the other hand. To take a note, you're going to have to shift it. But it brings you here. Okay. Another technique that we used, and we started the session off with, simply breathing. These are things we can do that doesn't call a lot of attention, right? So simply going, and in breathing, just noticing and listening to the air going through our nose, out our mouth, feeling our chest move, just those little things, or even physical movement. Trying to, even sitting in a meeting, try to tighten your toes and then release them. Feel your heels on the floor and the balls of your feet on the floor. We can't do this and be somewhere else. It brings us back. So anything you can do, besides someone saying, Liz, did you get that? Okay. Anything you can do to help bring you back to the present, to take us out of that waking sleep mode. Okay. So that's two things, right? Reflecting and waking up, really helping ourselves stay present. The third thing is what we call the focus of the circle of control. So, and I work with a lot of people on this. And if you have team members, if you have like a small team, I'm going to just tell you, this is a great technique to do when your whole team is feeling out of control and stressed. But when we are really stressed, we often have in our mind and thinking about things we can't control. And we're constantly trying to solve how to fix them, and we can't. And so we need to focus on what we can control. So I want to do a short exercise. There's another link in the chat, takes you to another Jamboard. And this is the first part we're going to look at is when we are in this state, what can't we control? So when we think about this, use the stickies. I want you to focus right now on things you can't control. Oops, somehow that got blown up. Let me see if I can, let me delete that. Okay, sorry, whoever wrote that. So right now I want you to focus on things you cannot control. Okay, the past. Maybe your blood pressure, maybe your anxiety. I might push back on you a little bit. Others' feelings, others' emotions, other people's thoughts. Absolutely. We can't control those things. What I said or did previously. Yeah, we can. I wish I could. I wish I could rewind that tape. Well, people think of me. We can't control that, right?
God's plan for me.
Okay, maybe God's plans for you. That's your faith. That's out there. What happened before? Even what might happen in the future. I can't control that, right? When I work with others, things people might come up with, I can't control politics around me. I can't control, people want to even fix the weather. Dang it, it's cold, right? Can't control that. Politics, absolutely. I can't control my spouse. I'd like to think I could, but I can't. So if we can just realize what I can't control at work, I might not be able to control the budget. I might not be able to control the legislature. I might not be able to control the policies and procedures as they are today. I might be able to influence them in the future. Okay, them kids, yeah. Other people's decisions that have an impact on me. I can't control that. Absolutely. But if I try, and if I think about them a lot and ruminate about them, it's going to stress the heck out of me. So what can we control? Let's go to the next frame. Now, put on stickies. What can you control? What do you have control over here? With all the stuff flying on around you. I can control my response. What can you control? My actions. My words. Wow, yeah.
My attitude.
Absolutely. The attitude in which I choose to look at the situation. Yeah. But oftentimes it doesn't just come to us, does it? We have to stop and think about it. We have to stop and make a choice.
Sorry, I see some post-its on the other page. I think they were meant for this one, things that I can control rather than
Okay.
things I cannot control, because I see I was moving some new comments on the other.
Okay. So if you wrote something and it's not showing up, do it again. Taking care of myself. Absolutely. Yeah, if they're not showing up here, let me know. My
I can
environment.
read them. I see healthy eating, my boundaries, coping techniques,
Okay, those are great. Boundaries, perfect. What
exercise, my behavior,
exercise?
my
Yep.
self-care, my actions, how I respond.
Thank you, Claudia. Absolutely. So
one thing, I'm not 100% sure, but that's my attitude, which was also under things that I cannot control. So it's either somebody that cannot control, and somebody that can control attitude, or it's just a mistake. I can't tell if it's the same post-it or not.
yeah. So what's the common denominator here? Anybody put it in chat, shout it out. What's the common denominator you're seeing?
Pronouns,
Mm.
mine.
Me. Yeah. So when we look at this, when we are under stress, often we find you are doing this to me. You are making it worse. You are having the issues that are causing me stress. And because we are just searching for a way to get ourselves out of this. And this takes that intention, that step back to go, what can I control here? How can I bring myself back to the present? What can I do? And whether that's get up and walk away, whether it's taking a break. Somebody said early, boundaries. I love that word. What can I put around myself to say this is acceptable? You know, in many situations, we show people how we want to be treated. So if we don't put up boundaries for ourselves, we're showing others that's okay to do certain things. So what boundaries do we need to make for ourselves the best self? Okay, how do I take care of myself? So again, this is probably an area you've thought about a lot, but we get so caught up when we're stressed, we don't take a moment. I almost wish I had a giant pause button, you know, that you could click, that just would allow the world to stop a minute, stop ourselves a minute. And if we can do that for ourselves, typically we know the things we need to do. So this is about looking at this circle of control. And again, if you have team members, this is a wonderful exercise when you just sense people are just really feeling stressed. And it's another way to look at what can we control and what can then move to what's our priority here? What's feasible? And I think we went through a lot of that early on in the pandemic when things were just absolute, when our world turned upside down. It kind of forced us to do this. And now we might be back in that rhythm and not paying attention. Okay. All right. Thank you for doing that. So the fourth tip that we're going to talk about has several parts to it. And this is about detach and put things in perspective, right? Find ways to put things back in perspective, because when we're stressed, we're not thinking clearly, right? We're not, we tend to personalize, especially when we're stressed. And it puts us in what I would call like a one down position. Feels like we're constantly trying to come up for air. So there's a couple of things we can do. And oftentimes at this point, we're thinking about all the worst things that can happen. And not that we think could happen, that are probably going to happen. All right. It's awful. Okay. And so how do we step back and help get things back in perspective? So 3 different things we can do. And I'm sure you've heard of these before. Contrasting, we'll talk about that. Getting grateful, putting ourselves in a more grateful mindset. And then reframe anxiety as excitement. That's a unique one. We'll talk about that. So when we talk about contrasting, some people use their faith. They're feeling really, really stressed out. And how big is this event in comparison to how big my higher power is, or whatever that is for you, right? Some people use values. Well, as long as my family's okay, I can get through this. Or as long as my health's okay, I can get through this. So trying to contrast. some people, I have said, well, I've survived cancer. I can get through anything, right? Maybe something traumatic that you got through. Okay. Something that helps shrink down to size what this stressor really is. Okay. I know I use this a lot, and I use it with executives I coach. What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? We talk about wanting to give our staff boundaries and operating within. What's the worst thing that can happen? And where should those boundaries be? I don't want my staff to have, I don't want to have a career-ending mistake. But mistakes are to learn from, right? So where is that boundary? Where is that for you? Okay. When we talk about gratefulness, does anyone here have a gratefulness practice that you regularly do? This is one thing that helps buffer against stress. And this has a lot of proven science around it. That if we can put our mindset, now remember, every time we try to shift our mindset and practice these things, we're creating new contacts of neurons in our brain that help us do this more easily. So at first, I might have to write this down, write myself a reminder. At first, I've got to really practice and be intentional about it until it becomes easier and this becomes a practice. So Melinda says, every morning I say what I'm thankful for and grateful for. Wonderful. Starts the day. I know some people who do this at night before they go to sleep, right? So when we do that, psychologists say we can only give our focus to one thing. So if we focus on the positive, we can't spend a lot of time ruminating. So this is another technique for us to try. And then another technique is reframing anxiety into excitement. I don't know about you, when I get really, really anxious, I can feel it in my chest. I feel my heart racing, right? But biochemically, what they say is that same feeling is the same thing you get when you get super excited. So they asked people who were anxious to mentally relabel what they were experiencing, not as I'm anxious, but I'm excited. And just in your mind right now, think about something you're anxious about, just for a moment. Maybe you begin to feel that in your body. Now say, I'm really excited about this. Okay, maybe it didn't work right away. It does take practice. I will tell you, I have tried this. And the first time I went, I'm not getting anything out of this. But the more I said, I'm excited, it began to change because excitement and anxious bring up two different feelings in my body. Just something to think about and try. Okay. So I would like to do a little crowdsourcing here. Claudia, I'd like to break us into just small groups.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, and just for a minute, I want you to think about what do you tend to ruminate about or worry about? And crowdsource with the people in your group. What do they ruminate about? What works for them? What works for you? Because what I find is if we can hear it from other people who have actually done it and it helps, it's more useful to us. Okay. So, and then we'll come back. We'll take about, what size are the groups, Claudia?
I was thinking to do 5 breakout rooms with 2 people in each room.
Okay. Let's do we're going to do this pretty quick, maybe about 6-7 minutes.
Okay, 7 minutes stop. Okay.
And then we'll come back and if you'd like to share, was there anything that came out of that for you? Okay. This is your time to connect.
Okay. Jackie, are you in trouble going to your room? And then see. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna move you to another room because otherwise you're gonna be alone. So I'll move.
Well, you could crowdsource with yourself, but
Or you could stay with us.
Yeah. Automatic.
welcome back. So I would love to hear, what are some takeaways from you? Any ahas, any, oh, I need to get back to that. Open up your mic and share.
I'll start.
Okay.
I think, well, from our group, while we all had different reasons or things that we ruminate about, we all seem to have pretty similar strategies in addressing that. And those were things like, you know, like if we're ruminating on something, kind of put it away, pause on it, set a boundary about it in the moment, come back to it. We talked about, you know, just that self-talk, you know, I'm putting this in a higher power, I'm putting this in God's hands, you know, things like, you know, I've been through this before, like I've done this before and it's worked out fine. It's that positive self-affirmation that I can do this. We talked about, you know, kind of giving ourselves permission that things don't have to be perfect. That we're not in charge of like the perfect world or making it perfect for the other people that we're working with. And then also the awareness when either we are or other people are catastrophizing, and that black and white, all or nothing, kind of just paying attention to that piece as well. And I think just I think Carrie, you had mentioned your takeaway, and mine would be the same, is reframing the anxiety to excitement. Something that, I mean, that's a nugget that I've learned so far today that I'm going to focus on kind of moving forward. Something that I really haven't heard, makes total sense, but haven't heard as a strategy really before. So that's something that we brought to attention. Did I miss anything, Carrie, Melinda?
Great,
That's it.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that. How about from the another group?
Yeah, I'll pop on a little bit. I agree with the idea of that higher power piece, because that was something that really, you know, talking about ruminating is really kind of the things that I can't control. And, you know, as far as supervising staff and supporting staff, I can't control what comes at them sometimes.
Right.
And giving, you know, them the skills, the training, the support they need, but also sometimes you just, you know, like I said, for me, it is looking at that higher power piece, and really kind of sometimes, you know, whether through meditation or prayer, but really kind of trying to, you know, help me navigate and support, and say the right things to support staff, because I can't control what comes at them. And I think that's probably one of the difficult things is, you know, when we talk about the things that we can't control in our lives, it's also the things that we can't control that happen to our people. And I think that's one of the tough things that I ruminate on.
Thanks, Mick. Anyone else? I know one of the things that I find I have to ask myself when I get spun up in my head, that helps me because it slows me down a little bit, is I ask myself, what do I know to be true? What do I know to be true about this? Like if I'm spun up about, can I do this? What if I fail? What if I don't like it? You know? And when I ask myself, what do I know to be true? Well, I know I prepare. I know I'm not a slug. I know that my history says I don't mess up. I can make mistakes, but I do pretty well when I have to put together something. And so I have to reflect and think about that. As a matter of fact, I'm a visual person. I don't know about you, but as a visual person, I need reminders in front of me. And I have this quote sitting on my computer, and it helps me when I start to spin about something I'm doing. And it reminds me, the quote is, when have I succeeded at making a positive change, even when it was hard? Well, I do that often. Even though it was hard, I know I can make a positive change. And if that's my intent, and if I reflect on my history, I know that's to be true more often than not. And it's a way for me to come back, not be worried about the future, come back here and go, Liz, you got this. You can do this. Okay. So thank you for coming today. I hope you took away a nugget. If nothing else, I hope it was a good respite hour for you away from your very, very hectic days. If I can be of service to you in the future, please feel free to reach out. But thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you to Liz, and thanks to all of you for joining. Claudia is going to put a link in the chat for a survey. We'd love to get your feedback on today's training and any ideas you have for upcoming trainings. If you have a team, if you're part of the best practice court team and you all are talking about something, you're like, gosh, it would be great to have a training, please reach out. That's what part of the benefit of participating in grants is, that we can help. We have some funding and we can help find speakers or topics that to bring to your team, to your local teams too. So thank you again, and anxious to get your feedback. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Liz.
Carrie?
Maureen,
All right, thank you.
do we have more training scheduled?